Book of Galatians, chapter 5. Are you ready? Excellent, all of you. If it is your intent to grow in the Lord, this is a text that you simply cannot get around. It is seminal, it is critical, it is everything that we may need it to be, spiritually and practically. Galatians chapter 5, picking it up at verse 16. We've spent a couple of weeks on this. We're going to continue. Are you there? Galatians 5:16. So I say, the Apostle Paul says, walk by the Spirit. Live under his dominion and be reliant upon his power. That's what it means to walk by the Spirit, as we've discussed in recent days. Go back, listen to the prior sermons. All lies this way. Your life is not your own anymore. You need to deal with that reality, or not have Christ. But if you're going to be in Christ, it's him. And we have to be under the dominion of Christ by his Spirit daily, and also reliant on him. How much can we do apart from the Lord? Do you think he means that when he says that? Apart from me, you can do. The only way that we can experience genuine spiritual growth in the inward place that manifests externally is by his power in operation. Christianity is not an exercise in how hard you can try, because you can't try hard enough. You can't be good enough to earn it or to walk the thing out. We need the power of God in our lives transforming us, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Christianity is an inward religion. It's not about the outside. The outside continually plays catch up to what's happening in here. Now, within us there is a battle. Who's experienced that battle? You still have a sinful nature. Even though you are born again, you still indwell a body that is given to the flesh. Paul says this. Walk by the Spirit, and you will what? You will not gratify the desires of the flesh. Again, the flesh desires that which is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit contrary to the flesh. They're in conflict with each other. So you're not to do just whatever you want. If you find that you just so easily give in to sin, it's because you have a pattern of it. You have fed that thing. And the only way to move forward is to walk by the Spirit and learn to starve that thing in order that he can begin to produce fruit within you that he desires. Now, for those who are given to the flesh, what does it produce? Verse 19. The acts of the flesh are obvious. In other words, if you're just going to be given to doing things in a fleshly manner, here are some things that you can expect. As I read this, do any of these sound familiar in 2024? Sexual immorality, impurity, debauchery, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred and discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions, and envy, drunkenness, orgy, and the like. Even reading that, I feel gross. Do you ever feel gross as a believer? What did Isaiah say when he experienced the presence of the Lord? Woe is me, why? Because I'm a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people who are fundamentally unclean too. You see, when you come face to face with the Lord, it doesn't take long to realize that you are not like him in many regards. Nor am I. We're broken. This is what we produce. What does Paul say next? I warn you. I've done before. There was prior discussion on this, that those who live like this, those who yield to sinful appetites, what's the end game of that? What's the final destination? The Bible is in front of you. What does it say? You will not inherit the kingdom of God. I didn't write that. The Lord inspired it through a preeminent apostle, which means that if there's a warning here, penned to the church, by the way, we do well to listen. Now, we've been talking about the fruit of the Spirit, varying aspects of it. We talked about love last week. We talked about joy. I want to cover 3 this morning. I'm going to be aggressive because if I'm not, I have to cover like 5 next week. So we're going to go through 3. It's like Ginger this morning. We're finishing Revelation 8 no matter how long it takes. Well, we're finishing the next 3 aspects of the fruit of the Spirit. The first one being peace. Everyone say peace. What is this thing? Put on my teacher hat for a second. I'm going to give you the simple definition first, and then I want to go a little bit deeper. Is that okay? Peace is not defined as the absence of conflict alone, but the presence of something. Now you need to hear that. It's not just the absence of something, it's the presence of the following: harmony, accord, and rest in life and living. I'm going to repeat that one more time, then we'll go just a hair deeper. Peace is not simply the absence of conflict. That's not peace, that's quiet. Don't confuse peace with quiet. They're not the same. It is the presence of genuine harmony and accord and rest in life and living. If you go a little bit deeper, the underlying Greek word is interesting because it speaks to a sense of wholeness or completeness. If you go a little bit deeper, it talks about, it flows from a word that means joined together, fitly joined together. And the image that I can see with this word is almost a stone wall. Ever see a stone wall before? Every stone in its proper place, interconnected, no gaps, no breaches, just a sense of harmony and accord. Now take that metaphor and apply it to your life. Life is a complex thing, is it not? There are many moving pieces in your world. But when there is peace in the Lord, all of those pieces come together. They're interconnected in a healthy manner to the point whereby there's wholeness, there's completeness, there's no gaps, there's no breaches. Does that make sense? It's a beautiful thing. We are called to walk in peace in a threefold manner. Note takers, here we go. We're called to be at peace with the Lord. That is primary, because if you do not have peace with the one who made the world, you will not know peace in it. How do we find peace with God? You ready for the super duper easy answer to this? The answer to every Sunday school question ever asked? Jesus. Romans 5 says the following, that we have been justified through faith, and we have peace with God, harmony, accord, no more conflict, no more hostility, no more gap, no more breach, no more division, no more discord, connection, union, completeness. We have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. Here's just a good reference to jot down, 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21. It says, God made him, speaking of Jesus, who had no sin, to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. We might become right with God. How many of you have spouses? Raise a hand. How much joy in life is there when you're arguing or things aren't going well? Doesn't matter how work's going. Doesn't matter how your friendships are. What's the old adage? If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy? If we're not in a place with the Lord that's healthy, nothing else will fall into place. We have peace through Christ. We have right standing through Christ. Now, number 2, moving quickly, we're called to be at peace with each other. Look to your left and to your right. Look ahead of you, look behind you. You were called to be at peace with them. But Pastor, I don't like them. Okay, great. Pastor, they don't like me. Okay. What did Jesus say about peace? Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who strive and labor hard after the establishment of peace. Not the peacekeepers. Again, that goes back to quietness versus actual peace. You see, a person that wants just quiet will not say things that need to be said to just maintain status quo. But people who will pursue peace will have tough conversations that there might be genuine harmony and unity. Blessed are the peacemakers, and what's the end result? What's the reward? They will be called children of God. Why? Because when you do that, you're acting just like your dad, spiritually speaking. Because if God is anything, he is a peacemaker who has taken every step to build us a bridge whereby we can come home. What does it say in Hebrews 12? Make every effort to live in peace with everyone. How much effort? Every effort. But Pastor, I tried really hard. Did you make every effort? to live at peace with them, to live in such a way that you're like two stones in the same wall without a gap or a breach? Gang, how many times do we allow breaches and gaps to go unaddressed? If you have a stone wall, I'm not a mason, I'm not handy, I'm not inclined in that direction. Bubba, I'll just use you. If there's just a gap in my stone wall, what's inevitably probably going to happen? Something's going to creep through it. Over time, that crack, that breach is probably going to worsen. It's going to be a weak point in the wall, and it's going to produce significant damage. Be a peacemaker. Make every effort. You want to know what it says? Brothers and sisters, strive for full restoration. Encourage one another. Be of one mind and live in peace. That's 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. Keep your thumb in Galatians, but I want you to go to the book of Romans. This is a hard text. And by hard, I mean it rubs against every aspect of your fleshly nature and mine. I don't want to do any of the following. Romans 12, we'll pick it up at verse 17. Again, my goal in this is just to give you some things to take home and to begin to say, okay, Lord, where do I begin with this? As I review this, as I reflect upon it, how can this affect my marriage, my children, my community, my church family, and beyond? Romans 12, verse 17. And again, this is all under the banner of peace with one another. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. How many admit that that's hard? Somebody wrongs you, come on, be honest, Christian. What do you want to do? You want to get them back, but in a worse degree. Don't believe me? Let somebody cut you off. Somebody wronged you. That instinct flares. Don't repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it's possible. As far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. You see, there will be times where it's not possible for you to have peace with another, but it should never be based upon your inability to work on the matter. If Cheryl and I have a problem, I am under obligation to do whatever I need to do to repair things. If she doesn't want to play ball and punts the ball when I give it to her, rejects the olive branch, well, there's a point where maybe, Lord, you got to deal with hearts here. But as long as it depends on me, I will make how much effort? Every effort to live at peace with everyone. Don't take revenge, dear friends. I love this. Leave room for God's wrath. You're so intent on making them pay. First of all, does that reflect the Spirit of Christ? No. But secondly, if they persist in a wrong direction, trust me, God will get them back far worse than you could ever do. What does the Lord say? It's written, it is mine to avenge. I will what? I'll repay, says the Lord. Now look at the practicalities here. A little bit of verse 20, then 21. If your enemy is hungry, I love the simplicity of this. Feed them. If they're thirsty, give them something to drink. And if you keep reading, it talks about heaping coals on their head. Your actions of godliness might be the mechanism that brings them to a place of humility and repentance, whereby they can know peace with God and peace with you. Don't be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with what? With good. Gang, if the Church of Jesus Christ, individually and collectively, just obeyed that, imagine the world we would live in. Peace with God, peace with each other, and finally, as far as this point, peace in the midst of adversity and difficulty. An inward sense of harmony and rest and accord. You see, once you have peace with the Lord, you can now have his peace, the peace of God. Jesus said it the following way. It's not new, it's not rocket science, it's ancient. Peace I leave with you. Jesus said, my peace I give you. I don't give it as the world gives. Don't let your hearts be troubled and don't be afraid. We spent our time last week noting that this thing called joy, it's not dependent on what you're going through. It's the same with peace. The version of peace that Jesus wants you to walk in, it's not based on how things are going in your world. You can have peace in the midst of the worst of storms. Now for homework, because I'm super short on time, you can read through Philippians 4 on your own. Because if you read that book, you're going to find 3 or 4 principles that are practical in nature that can help you to appropriate this thing called peace. It talks about the place of worship and prayer and gratitude. It talks about the things that you focus upon, the things that captivate you, the things that you give your heart and your mind to. I'll read a piece of it quickly. Brethren, whatever is true, whatever is noble, who's heard this before? Whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, that's what you're to think upon. Gang, this world is going to bombard you with so much garbage. And much of it, yes, we do have to deal with. But as far as we are able, we can choose what we focus on. And might I add before I segue on who we focus on? Because if you look at each of those attributes, they all describe Jesus perfectly, don't they? Is Jesus true? Is he noble? Is he right? Is he pure? Is he lovely? Is he admirable? Is he excellent or praiseworthy? The answer to that is yes. So focus on him. You can have that peace and watch what he can do. Moving on quickly, the next fruit of the Spirit is what per Galatians 5? Love, joy, peace. Here we go. Patience, some translations might say. Older translations, I prefer the term long-suffering. The NIV is forbearance. This term in the underlying Greek speaks to the ability to bear with one another in the realm of human associations. It speaks to our capacity in the Lord to make allowance for one another in love. How many of you will testify people will drive you crazy? Now, we're called to be at peace with them, right? Well, a part of that is learning to be patient with one another. How many of you have spouses? You got to learn to be patient. Wives rarely make sense to their husbands. And I know that we husbands just have a way of driving you batty too. How many fully understand and enjoy every aspect of your children? Right before service, Jill decided to have a meltdown in my office. You know what I had to practice in that moment? Long-suffering. You see, there's several reactions that we can have to people. Number one is we can, in the midst of drama, we can join in that drama. People who are ugly spiritually can easily make us ugly in reply or in response. Some people respond to the difficulty of others by withdrawing entirely from them. Some people become hermits. Anybody ever know one of those? Anybody related to one of those? They just want no human association. Even going to the store is like this exercise. Oh my word, I have to see somebody. Misty, you're on the eternal hunt for alone time these days, and we're considering taking in another kid. May the Lord bless you with that endeavor. But the Bible calls us to walk with this spirit of patience. I want to read this to you from Mother Teresa, and when I read these words, to me, they're just a call to patience. People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered, to which we all say amen. Forgive them anyway. If you're kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you're honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give your best anyway. All of that's a call to learn to make allowance for the people who are in your world. We don't always like each other. You've told me before. You see, you're in the front row, you're sitting in the splash zone. Usually you're in the back hiding with Betty Foley. But now that I see you, James, I love you, but I don't like you today. We often walk in that place, but we all got to learn, myself included, obviously. I'm talking to myself, really, to make allowance. It says in the book of Colossians chapter 3, I'll read it to you quickly, as God's chosen people who are holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves, I love that term, with compassion and kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other. Put up with each other and forgive as you are wronged. It's amazing what that can do to a person. You see, it's really hard to continually be cruel to someone who's super nice to you and patient. It actually brings the best out of them typically. Think about Jesus for a moment. And again, there's way more in my notes, trust me. When I think about Jesus, I think of the incredible patience he exercised. And let's just begin with his own. This is what I have in my notes. You ready? What a motley crew Jesus had assembled. He had fishermen, tax collectors, potential revolutionaries, and more who consistently demonstrated an appalling degree of immaturity. These were men who spoke at the wrong times, panicked at the wrong times, fell asleep at the wrong times, argued about truly petty matters. Who's going to be the greatest? Mistook the heart of Jesus and proved genuinely dense. You read the Gospels, it is not kind to the apostles. They, in love, were dense. But consider the degree to which Jesus put up with them in order to cultivate them unto maturity. If Jesus could put up with his immediate followers, and he continues to put up with you and me, whatever I just said applies to us. Don't think you're dense sometimes. You don't think you're petty at times? You don't think that we mistake the heart of Jesus at times? If he's willing to do that for us, can't we pay it forward to each other? Cut a little bit of slack sometimes. I'm not saying we condone bad behavior. No, we call things out in love, but you know what? You don't have to ride people all the time either. Nobody wants to be around that. It's not your job to be the Holy Spirit pointing out everybody else's issue. Look inwardly a bit and watch what he shows you. I have in my notes, it's beyond my time, that Jesus also showed tremendous patience to his enemies. What did Jesus say from the cross? We'll just pick up with this one thought. He's praying for forgiveness. Gang, I'm going to be honest with you. If you all are crucifying me, I'm not praying for you. In my flesh. I could hope that in the Lord we could become that. You think of Stephen, who was martyred. As he's being stoned, I'm not talking about the modern day version of that term. I mean, he was being stoned, pelted with rocks to death. Sounds a lot like Jesus. Forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Know what that is? It's patience. And we could use a lot more of it in the Church of Jesus Christ and beyond. Let's segue to the third one this morning, because I promised I was going to finish all three. Are you ready? Kindness. Some translations might say gentleness, and you'll see why in a moment. Who has kindness in your Bible? Who has another term, gentleness? Okay, good. So again, they're synonymous. You'll see that. Now, all eyes this way. This is probably the most complicated underlying Greek term. It's beautiful. There is no one English word that captures this word, kindness. Because if you break it down a bit, you get these elements that make up the idea of kindness. The underlying word speaks to that which is usable or well fit for use. I'll read it to you. Well fit for use for what is truly necessary. One scholar says, and a linguist at that this word refers to, and I have it in my notes, I'm not going to pronounce it, there's an X in there, the meeting of real needs in God's way, in God's timing, and in his fashion. Another author says, it is a spirit produced within us that is characterized by charity and concern and a sense of uprightness, which meets real human needs while avoiding all cruelness or harshness. I'm going to give you a simple and summary definition. Are you ready? It is an attitude of tenderness and compassion, that renders us useful in the hands of God in the meeting of real needs. I'm going to repeat that because, again, there's different elements to this. It's an attitude that the Spirit cultivates within us of tenderness and compassion that makes us useful in the hands of God to meet real human needs. When you think about Jesus, was not his ministry marked by that? How many would agree that Jesus was a useful vehicle in the hands of God to meet real human need? That he was characterized by tenderness and charity and compassion. Go to the book of Matthew. We're going to move to a close with a couple of texts out of Matthew. Because I want you to see with your eyes the ministry of Jesus through the filter of kindness. A charity of heart that produces action that made him useful in the hands of God. Matthew 9, we're going to go through a couple of chapters. We're going to just read snippets from a few different places in the book of Matthew in particular. There's more in my notes, but you can read those on your own time. Matthew 9, picking it up at verse 35. I'm so thankful for the ministry of Jesus. I'm thankful that it was recorded for us to review and to see and to study. Beautiful books of the Bible. May we learn from them. It says in verse 35 of Matthew 9, and we're moving to a close within the next 5 minutes. That's not a pastoral lie. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and doing what? Healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, what does it say? He had compassion on them. You see, his heart was moved. Why? Because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. You see, what he saw on this earth touched his heart. There was a warmth, a tenderness in his heart toward those who were broken and in need. And that sense of charity moved him to a place of action, and he became and was a useful tool in the hands of God. Gang, that's kindness. Matthew 15. This is a famous text. We'll pick it up at verse 29. Again, I just want you to see one or two of them. I'm not going to beat the dead horse, but I want you to see that kindness is not just a feeling. It's something within the heart that produces action. It's a charitable heart that produces charitable action. At some point, Christianity requires action. It's not enough to say, I'm sorry to hear, good luck with that. Sometimes God calls us to be the ones to roll up our sleeves and remedy actual need. Verse 29 of Matthew 15, it talks about Jesus. He went along the Sea of Galilee. And he went up on a mountainside and he sat down. Great crowds came to him, bringing the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others, and laid them at his feet, and he healed them. People were amazed when they saw the mute speaking, the cripple made well, the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they praised the God of Israel. Now Jesus calls his own together and says, I have what for these people? Compassion for these people. You see, his heart is tender. He sees the condition of the people, and he's going to do something about it. They've been with me already for 3 days and have nothing to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry, or they may collapse on the way. Gang, that's a very practical thing. The Son of God concerned himself with people having full stomachs before they went their separate ways. He didn't just feed them spiritually. He fed them physically. One had a place of primacy in his ministry. One was the priority, but the secondary element of you have a need, let's meet it, was clearly met. Now the disciples, here we go, a little bit dense. Where are we going to get enough bread in this remote place to feed this crowd? To which Jesus replies, verse 34, how many loaves do you have? By the way, what a ridiculous question. Thousands of people. Thousands. We'll get some numbers in a moment. Lord, you'd see the wagon behind us of bread for enough. What do you mean, how many do you have? Well, what's the answer? We have 7 and a few small fish. told the crowd to sit down on the ground. He took the 7 loaves and the fish, and when he had given thanks, verse 35, he broke them and gave them to his disciples, and they in turn to the people. They all ate and were satisfied. I imagine in that crowd of some 4,000 men plus that there were some people that could eat. We had a baby sprinkle yesterday. Who's ever heard of a baby sprinkle before, by the way? I had never heard that term. I've heard of a baby shower, but a baby sprinkle. I watched little Xavier eat 3 full plates of food. And even then he wasn't satisfied. He looked at you guys and said, "Can I have some more?" But what does it say in the text? They all ate and they were all what? They were all sad. Even little Xavier in the crowd was full. Afterward, the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. And the number of those who ate were 5,000 men, not including women and children. Do you want to know what prompted Jesus to feed the masses? Kindness. His heart was touched. That rendered him useful in the hands of God to remedy actual need. When you look at all of his miraculous works through that filter, it's going to speak to you. Because the beauty to me of his miraculous works isn't that God, who made everything, can do amazing things, but that he even has the desire to. I love the man who came to Jesus, "If you're willing, you can make me whole." What did he say? I am. We don't think of the Lord that way. We really don't. We think of him as distant and removed and aloof. We go before him, "Lord, if you're able, if you're willing, I am." It's his nature. Read in your own time out of Luke 7, one of my favorite accounts of a woman who's burying her son and the husband's already dead. Gang, her world was over. If you're a woman in that culture, if you're a widow and you have no kids, your future does not look bright. You are doomed to trust in either the charity of a people who now believe you cursed, or you may have to sell yourself physically to meet your needs. Jesus comes along and it talks about his heart went out to her. And what did he do? He raised that kid from the dead. And it says he gave him back to his mother. Gang, that's kindness. That's Jesus. And I'll end with this. That's what we're supposed to be. That's a tremendous privilege, to be a tool in the hands of God in meeting the need of another, based upon your unique gifting and skill set and capacity. Again, we're all different. The needs that the Lord is going to meet through a Cheryl or a Nancy or a Misty is going to be different than a Sean or a me or a Ron or a Carol. We all bring something unique to the table, but what if God puts you in varying contexts because you were the perfect person to minister to someone in need? And if you will simply let your heart be touched with a sense of charity, you become useful in his hands, and he works through you. That's the trick. His power, not ours. He works through you to genuinely remedy some earthly need that one person or more may be touched, not just for this life, but more importantly, for the life to come. Gang, these things matter. So as we go forth from this place, I want you to tap into that piece. I want you to practice a little bit of patience. That if you need a little bit more than a little more, then practice it a lot. Hang out with me. I'll give you plenty of reason to practice patience. And I want you to practice some kindness. Watch what the Lord can do in kind.